Hi, everybody. Todd Nash, Senate District 29. I'm just going to talk about a few bills here today. We are up against the deadline. So on the 21st, that's when all the bills need to be scheduled for a work session, unless they are in one of a couple different um, committees. And Rules and Revenue are the two that don't have those deadlines. But every other policy bill out there, it needs to be scheduled for a work session. We've been working feverishly to make sure that those bills that are important to you and I have those work sessions, and I'm going to go through a few of them here. I want to talk about one of the successes we had this week, and that was Senate Bill 777. You've heard me talk about it quite a little bit. Wolf compensation, that's been years in the making, and we got that out of committee on a 5-0 vote. And so I really appreciate everybody that's worked on that. So many people from around the district that made the trip down here to Salem. So much of the research that's been done. These things don't happen overnight. Telling your story consistently, being honest, truthful, forthright, asking what you really want, and I think that that's going to make a significant difference. Um, as that rolls on to the Senate floor, I think it has some really, I keep saying positive momentum, but I really believe it does. And if we have a dominant vote on the Senate floor, it's going to move over to the House, and I think it's going to go through there without much of a contest. So again, thank you all for all the good work that you did to get it this far. Um, Senate Bill 916 was a bill that we heard today. It's one of the most contentious bills that I've seen come to the floor of the Senate, and there was a lot of debate on that, went round and round. One of the first bills that hasn't had 100% Democrat vote and support. And that bill, what it does essentially, if you're a public worker, it allows you to get unemployment wages while you're out on strike. Um, I was a no vote on this. All my Republican colleagues were, and a couple of the Democrats were as well. Great discussion on the bill and the merits of doing this. We all appreciate our public workers, but it's hard to be inspired to come back to work, quite honestly, if you're getting paid while you're on strike. And those funds for unemployment are dedicated for those people who can't find employment, that are suffering hardship. Going out on strike has a completely different criteria, and I'm I'm not in support of this bill at all. It passed the floor of the Senate. Now it goes over to the House. I hope they can stop it, but in the end, if they don't, it's just going to be our new reality. What's to keep people from wanting to strike more often? And um, I think it sets a very bad precedence. We will be the first in the nation, should this pass, to have such a thing. And anyway, it's life here in Salem. We don't always agree, but we had healthy civil discussion on it, and that's part of the process that we do here. Senate Bill 1061, been back and forth on it quite a little bit, trying to get it refined, trying to get it to do what we want it to do, and that's the lumber grading bill. And so if you have a small sawmill, what we want to be able to do is run a program through OSU Extension, get you to a training, and if you go through that training, get certified, come back home, do self-certification on your lumber, and then that lumber can be sold to a person that's building a home or the agent thereof. And we think it's a good bill. It's a small ask, a small change, but it's been highly successful in Wisconsin, Tennessee. They're working on one in Alaska and another one in North Carolina. And this is, like I said, a small ask, a little, and you may ask why we even waste time on it. Well, remember back to the pandemic when lumber prices were through the roof, and maybe through the roof is a bad pun, but we saw that with beef, and we recognized it here in the state. We contributed money to some of the small processors out there, made some grants available, and we think that that concentration of some of those entities and they become more fragile. And another thing, this is the first time in history that America imports more lumber than what it exports. And here in Oregon, if we can find a way to expand our lumber consumption the way that we put it out, that's a win for us. And so that's been a lot of work for a lot of people. There's been a little contention with some of the folks, some of the stakeholders there, but we're working through all that process, and we're going to get that work session coming up next week sometime, and look forward to what that might provide into the future. And shopping local for lumber may take on a whole new twist. Senate Bill 976. And so that was the bill that would allow lay people, if you will, to be able to preg check and be able to charge for it. And so those pregnancy checks on cows have traditionally been done by veterinarians, though there has been a lot of people over the years that are quite skilled at palpating cattle. Technology has changed with ultrasound machines. More people have been trained to do that sort of thing. And we had a hearing on that. And in that hearing, one of the things that we heard was, veterinarians have mandatory reporting. So if there's a lot of open cows, a lot of cows that didn't get pregnant, they have a mandatory obligation to pass that information on to the Department of Agriculture, our state veterinarian, and then they do investigations to see what the problem might be there, if there is one there at all. And I think that that's reasonable. We added that in an amendment. The other thing that was a part of that bill was equine dentistry. And we got quite a lot of pushback on that. There was some concerns over sedation of those horses. And we heard the veterinarian community, we heard some of the concerns, and we're actually putting into there a work session in between this session that we're currently in and the short session, so that some of those issues can be worked out and discussed. And I have promised Farm Bureau that we will do our very best to get a hearing on that in the short session. But I appreciate those guys that put that together, and Farm Bureau of Oregon bringing that forward, and there were some great merits to both of those components, but the preg check is the only one that's going to go forward here in this session. Lastly, and I'm going to make this brief, I'm not going to go through the whole litany of bills. There was a bill that came to us originally from Umatilla County. There was a sighting of windmills over there in Umatilla County. And Umatilla County had an ordinance there that allowed for a 2-mile buffer on those. When the FSEC cited that, and that is the Energy Facilities Siting Council, pardon me for the delay on that. When they decided to cite that last sighting of windmills over there, they encroach within that 2-mile buffer with about 10 windmills, comes to mind, out of a couple hundred. There was some lashback on that, and actually Umatilla County litigated on that for not observing what they had in their local ordinance. Some of the community members were upset. Eastern Oregon Counties Association joined in on that lawsuit, and we ended up losing. And it's tough to beat the system, but We put a bill together that bolsters those ordinances a little bit, and that is Senate Bill 1034. We think we have a hearing for that, and we're getting that scheduled out. And that's the last bill that I'm going to cover. We are up against the deadline, and that deadline, like I said, this Friday, and things are going to get a little more tightened up down here in Salem. Maybe some of those really damaging bills that are challenging, we'll see some of those go to the side, and we're going to lose some as well. Some of the bills that we wanted, we're not going to get through, but we have worked really hard to try to get those things that represent you across the finish line. We're going to continue to work at it. I thank everybody for being involved, those that have come by, those that have asked questions, provided testimony. It's highly valuable. And I can't speak highly enough of my staff. Both Vicky and Jake have just been working at a fever pitch, trying to accommodate all this. Some of the lobby that has been really helpful in trying to assist us in these things and smooth things out. Um, Super helpful. With that, I'm going to say goodbye. I'm looking forward to coming home this weekend. And if I see you around, say hi. And we will visit again next week. Thank you.